Madam Secretary.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This is a City Planning Commission review session. Today is Monday, May 19th, 2014, and a quorum is present. Commissioners, item number 1 has been laid over, so we will now move to item number 2, page 25, proposed urban development action area project designation, project approval, and disposition of city-owned property to facilitate the Irish Arts Community Facility in addition to existing open space. Our presenter is Carolina. It's item number 2, page 25.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The Department of Housing Preservation and Development seeks approval of an urban development area action project designation and project approval in the disposition of city-owned property located at 726 11th Avenue and 555 West 51st Street to enable development of an approximately 30,000 square foot community facility for the Irish Arts Center with theater, studios, classrooms, and administrative space, as well as the extension of an adjacent community garden in the Clinton Hell's Kitchen neighborhood in Manhattan Community District 4. The project area comprises the zoning lot on which the site is located, outlined here in blue and outlined here in black. At the western end of the block, that's bounded by 52nd Street, 51st Street, 10th Avenue, and 11th Avenue. The development site, the site of the new Irish Arts Center, and the expanded garden occupies an approximately 10,000 square foot portion of the zoning lot. It has a 50-foot frontage on 11th Avenue and a 50-foot frontage on West 51st Street. The Irish Arts Center has occupied a 3-story tenement building at 553 West 51st Street at this location since 1972. The organization promotes Irish and Irish American culture through literature, dance, theater, film, and music. Its needs have outgrown its current facility, which are limited to a 99-seat performance space, a lobby that is also used as an art gallery and a dance studio, and several small rooms on upper floors that serve as classrooms, theater support rooms, meeting rooms, and administrative space. The new 30,000 square foot building will allow the Irish Arts to expand its programming and to reach a wider audience. The project areas in the Clinton Hell's Kitchen neighborhood. Immediately adjacent properties are residential, including the Archstone, 25-story Archstone building towards the east of the block, Clinton Manor's 2 8-story residential buildings in the middle of the project block. The Mercedes House is between 53rd, 54th Street on 11th Avenue, and of course, Site 7, which is currently undergoing ULURP, which will also include residential uses. To the south is a mixture of residential, commercial, and institutional buildings, and west of 11th Avenue, blocks include generally low-rise building with larger footprints, including television studios, office buildings, and surface parking lots. The two city block DeWitt Clinton Park is just across 11th Avenue to the west. Nearby transit includes the 50th Street subway station at 8th Avenue and several bus lines. The sites that are subject to disposition approval are part of a larger zoning lot, which is bounded by 52nd Street, 11th Avenue, and 51st Street. Just to go over the current conditions of the site, it's easier if I walk over. The Irish Arts Center occupies this building at 553 West 51st Street, but just next door to it is a paved parking lot, or a paved lot that's used for storing cars. Immediately to the west, at 726 11th Avenue is currently occupied by a former 2-story stable, which is being used by Cyber Tire for outdoor gear. And at 726 11th Avenue, otherwise the zoning lot includes row houses that have been rehabilitated for affordable housing on the northern and southern corners. A Captain Post building, which is part of the Site 7 application, which is also going to be rehabbed for affordable housing, is on 52nd Street, and the Police Athletic League also has a facility on the zoning lot. The project area is in the former Clinton Urban Renewal Area, which expired in 2009. The zoning lot is mapped R8A with a C25 overlay to a depth of 100 feet from east of 11th Avenue. The remainder of the zoning lot is zoned R8A. The Special Clinton District modifies underlying zoning provisions within Western Sub-Area C2. R8 districts are permitted a maximum of 4.2 FAR. for all uses with a building height of 7 stories or 66 feet on narrow streets. R8A districts in Western Sub-Area C2 are inclusionary housing designated with a base FAR of 5.4, bonusable to 7.2, and community facilities are allowed 6.5 FAR. Okay, HPD proposes urban development area action plan designation and disposition of 2 disposition areas. The 8,800 square foot portion here in white is currently occupied again by Cybert Tire at 726 11th Avenue, and the Irish Art Center at 553 West 51st Street will be disposed of for construction of a new Irish Art Center community facility building. The facility will contain approximately 30,000 square feet over 3.5 FAR. The 11th Avenue portion of the building will rise to 78 feet, 5 stories, set back at 60 feet. The existing Irish Art Center at 553 West 51st Street will be replaced with this 3-story, 35-foot tall building segment, and the two are going to be connected by a 26-foot tall connecting portion of the building in the rear yard. The building will be programmed with a multi-purpose performing arts theater, a dance rehearsal studio, classrooms, administrative space, street-level communal space that will accommodate accessory food and beverage service, and small performance, as well as outdoor terraces. The existing brick facades of the 2-story building at 726 11th Avenue and the 3-story building that's currently occupied by Irish Arts will be preserved. The second disposition that is being proposed includes the 1,255 square foot paved lot immediately to the west of Irish Arts, which will be used to expand the existing Juan Alonso Garden on the corner of 51st Street, and will be accessible to the community by key. In addition to the UDAP designation and disposition, HPD separately seeks a mayoral zoning override to allow a rear yard obstruction of up to 26 feet rather than 23 feet permitted by zoning. The 26-foot segment in the rear yard, again, links the 11th Avenue portion of the building with the 51st Street portion in the rear yard.
Thank you. Questions? Anna?
Someone's got to ask. This is another one that's been a very long time brewing, and it's nice to see it finally get to this point. What's the phasing plan? Where will Irish Arts have to relocate temporarily, or will they stay in their existing space? Well,
my understanding is that Irish Arts has increasingly been working with partner organizations in order to continue to put on performances and host cultural events. So while the building is under construction, or the 51st Street portion of the building certainly is under construction, those sorts of programs with partner organizations will continue, and Irish Arts will subsequently be able to then occupy the space and host those sorts of events here.
excellent. Thank you.
Mr. Knuckles?
This is not a matter before us. I'm just nosy. How is this being financed, if you know, Carolina?
I don't know, actually. I believe that this is a partnership between Irish Arts and the Irish government. Is that right? And the city.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Delausse?
That may answer my question. Does this disposition come with any ongoing restriction to the uses moving forward? And again, you may not know the answer to that.
As part of the UDAP, the Irish Arts portion of the disposition is going to be for community facility use. The open space portion is going to be for open space use. Should that change, HPD will come back for a separate UDAP.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, certified. Thank you very much, Carolina.
Let's now move to item number 3, page 39, proposed special permit to facilitate the continued use of retail in the Soho Cast Iron Historic District for property located at 130 Prince Street. Our presenter is Joel. That's item number 3, page 39.
All right, good afternoon. So this application seeks approval of a special permit to legalize and allow existing retail use below the level of the second story at 130 Prince Street, located in the Soho Cast Iron Historic District and Manhattan Community District 2. The requested action will allow the Commission to modify the use regulations within the underlying M15A zoning district. The Landmarks Preservation Commission approved the project in January 2013. 130 Prince Street is located in the southwest corner of Prince and Worcester Streets. It's 1 block south of West Houston Street and 3 blocks west of Broadway. The surrounding area within 600 feet of the project site is developed with buildings averaging between 5 and 8 stories. Many of them are mixed-use buildings with ground floor retail uses. For example, on the subject block of the 21 lots, which includes the project site, 18 have ground floor commercial use. The project site is located in the M15A zoning district. M15A districts have allow for a maximum FAR, or maximum commercial and manufacturing FAR of 5, and a maximum community facility FAR of 6.5. In these districts, use group 6 commercial and retail uses are not permitted below the floor level of the second story on buildings with a lot coverage of greater than 3,600 square feet. So, 130 Prince Street is a corner lot. It has a lot area of 11,490 square feet. On Prince Street, it has 125 feet of frontage, and on Worcester Street, it has 101 feet of frontage. The project site is improved with a 5-story plus penthouse, use group 6 office building with ground floor use group 6 retail uses. The building is here in these photos. The building contains 62,000 square feet for a total FAR of 4.9. The building was originally built in 1925 as a parking garage with light industrial uses. And in 1989, the building underwent an enlargement and alteration, which established the existing non-conforming retail uses. And that enlargement is along the Worcester Street frontage here. So on the ground floor, there are 5 existing retail spaces that total to 11,490 square feet. The cellar includes storage and support functions, of which 10,129 square feet are accessory to the ground floor retail. 4 of the 5 spaces are currently occupied, and tenants include Cole Haan, Barber, True Religion, and Samsung. All apart from Samsung are under long-term leases, and the building owner intends to allow them to remain. And all these retail spaces are. So the applicant is seeking a special permit pursuant to zoning resolution section 74-711 to modify 4214 D2A, which does not permit retail use below the floor level of the second story in buildings occupying more than 3,600 square feet in M15A districts. Therefore, the requested action will legalize the long-standing existing use group 6 retail uses on the ground floor and cellar of the project site.
Is that it, Joe?
That's it, yes.
Ms. Levin?
Joel, thank you for that. I'm a little bit confused about what's really going on. The retail space was just put in 1989, and it didn't comply then, and it just happened?
Yeah, it just happened. So And the applicant is coming now to legalize the existing retail because they went to LPC to do a facade restoration of the ground floor. And so in just doing that, they wanted that's what triggered
all
them
of
coming
this.
here to do
Okay,
this.
Because I also noticed in the briefing sheet that in December 2012, the tax lots were merged.
Yes.
Which I would have thought would happen when they did the enlargement, but I guess that didn't. Okay,
No.
and normally, when you see a merger like this, you think, something else is coming.
Yeah.
Why did they do the zoning lot merger?
Well, the building owner actually acquired
The tax lot merger?
Yeah, the current building owner acquired the development then in 2012. So maybe when they
Okay, so
when they
this
got
may
it.
have been some cleanup operation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's again why they're here too.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? I will say, just to Ms. Levin's point, that it's a little surprising that national retailers as exist in this space would lease space knowing that it didn't, at least at the moment, comply with zoning. That's
Right, or
highly unusual.
Ignorant of its status.
You'd think that they would have good representation. Certified.
All right, thank
Thank you.
you.
Let's now move to item number 4, page 72, proposed renewal of previously approved City Planning Commission special permit concerning mixed-use development on 53 West 53rd Street. And is Dominic?
This is Moma, I got to recuse.
Yes. Commissioner Cantor is recused. This is item number 4, page 72.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman. This application is brought by the applicant to renew 2 special permits approved in 2009 for the project located at 53 West 53rd Street. It will be to facilitate a 1,050-foot tall, approximately 595,171 unit residential tower located on the western portion of the block and the zoning lot. It's located here between 53rd and 54th Street, between 5th Avenue and 6th Avenue. And this is a representation of the block. The zoning lot encompasses nearly the entire block. The only 2 out parcels is this parcel here on 6th Avenue and this at the corner of 54th and 5th. The 2 special permits were firstly one was pursuant to 7479 to shift 136,000 square feet of floor area to the subject zoning lot from the University Club. The University Club is located here, and the action was to shift the floor area across 54th Street onto the block. Secondly, a special permit pursuant to 74711, which allows modification of use in bulk, if there's a landmark on the zoning lot. Here, there was a landmark on the zoning lot, St. Thomas's Church, which is located here at 53rd and 5th Avenue. The special permits became effective on September 20th, 2010, so these special permits will lapse September 20th of this year, 2014. Zoning lot is located in the special Midtown District where the predominant land use is commercial. You can see on the land use map, red represents commercial, so it's predominant. But just north of there, within the the Midtown District's preservation subdistrict, there is a residential component between 5th and 6th, just north of the site. The area is zoned commercial with zoning districts including C66 and 653, which predominate on the avenues, as also and also you can see those on the zoning block here, C66 on 6th Avenue, C53 and 5th Avenue. And also in the mid-blocks in this area, the 2 zoning districts that predominate are C5P, which you can see here on the block, the north side, and C525 on the south side. The project area, the zoning lot's about 150,000 square feet. Now, the development site is located here, gray portion, which is an approximately 19,000 square foot site, and it's split between 3 zoning districts, C66 on the west, C5P in the northeast, and C5 2.5 on the southwest. Also, adjacent to the development lot Here is 1330 Avenue of the Americas, a 40-story commercial building. And also on the zoning lot is MoMA, which takes up almost all of the block, St. Thomas's Church, Museum Tower here on top of MoMA, and right there, a small portion, the American Folk Art Museum site. So the applicant proposes this 77-story, 171-unit building. And just to talk a little bit more detail about the approvals that were approved, I did mention the transfer from 74-711 from the University Club, I'm sorry, from 74-79 from the University Club. 74-711 actions, they allowed 4 different modifications. Firstly, to distribute floor area without regard to district boundaries from St. Thomas's Church, about 500,000 square feet to the C53 district, from the C5C district, to the other zoning districts on the site, and also 66,000 square feet from the C5P district on the north to the C5 2.5 district. Also, 74-711 allowed a modification of the height and setback regulations. This is in the Midtown district, and a daylight evaluation analysis was done. The daylight evaluation score was less than 75%, the threshold that needed to be passed, so the waiver was used for that. And one more thing, just to detail here, C5P districts, which is the northern portion of the zoning lot, is not in daylight evaluation. So for that, the hatching shows the shows the waiver that was needed to construct the tower in the C5P district. Also, there was a waiver of the pedestrian circulation space, slightly. First of all, about 2,800 square feet of circulation space was required here. The waiver permitted the proposed about approximately 2,000 square feet. And also, the waivers were used to modify the circulation areas along 54th Street and 53rd Street to allow slight modifications in the height and the depth of those entrances. And lastly, the waivers were used to modify the rear yard equivalent. In the C5P, the northern portion of the development plot. So on May 8th, 2014, Community Board 5 held a public hearing on the applicant's requested renewal. In a later date of May 9th, the Community Board didn't address whether it approved the renewal or not. Their language was, the Community Board does not see the need or value of revisiting an approval that was already granted. However, the Community Board did note that they would urge the developer and the adjacent residential community to develop an ongoing mechanism together with the elected officials to work through all the construction and building management challenges. So this is a renewal pursuant to Section 1143, and that states that a special permit automatically lapses unless substantial construction is completed after 4 years. According to the applicant, work had been delayed due to difficult market conditions, but the applicant believes that within the next 3 years, which would be what this renewal would be for, they believe that the improved market conditions would allow the development of this site. So pursuant to 1143, the commission may renew the special permit for 2 additional 3-year terms, provided that the commission finds that the facts upon which the special permit was granted have not substantially changed. So if there are any questions.
To Dominic. Ms. Levitt.
Dominic, I'm losing the spot in the materials. Actually, I have two questions. There used to be a hotel as part of this plan, right? And the hotel is now no longer in the plan.
Yes.
The building has the same physical shape, no changes in the design.
Yes.
It's not getting 200 feet taller by any chance.
No.
I wouldn't mind that, but never mind, that's history. I would think that the elimination of the hotel use is, that was one thing that the community was really very concerned about, having an active use like a hotel on a mid-block site, so I would think that traffic conditions will improve as a result of that. But to the community board's concerns about traffic impacts, we noted in our report in 2009 the importance of having MoMA adhere to a traffic management plan, and I wonder if in connection with this reconsideration, not reconsideration, but renewal, folks have taken a look at the traffic management plan, are sure that it's up to date, that we don't need to be adding or changing anything in that traffic management plan. I think it's going to be critical as this project gets started that the construction management and traffic management component of it be really aggressively pursued with the community, because it's going to be a tough few years while this thing gets built.
I don't know whether the traffic management plan was specifically readdressed. I do know that the applicant has, both at the meeting that they had with the community board and also in conversation with me, stated that they do want to have and have begun this dialogue with the community. In fact, today, apparently after this meeting, they have a meeting with Councilmember Garodnick, staff, and some members of the 54th Street Community Association who was present at the community board meeting and had some questions. So that dialogue is beginning, and also what the applicant has told me is that within the restrictive declaration, there's a requirement that there must be some a committee to discuss construction issues, and they're fully willing to comply with the
Okay.
restrictive declaration.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions?
You just answered mine.
Okay. Thank you, Dominic. So can I have an assent by a show of hands to send an approval letter to DOB? Thank you.
Thank you,
Send
Dominic.
it, Dominic.
Let's move to item number 5, page 140, a Brooklyn non-ULURP post-referral application with respect to a proposed modification to a previously approved City Planning Commission large-scale development to facilitate healthcare uses and parking from Maimonides Medical Center in Brooklyn. Our presenter is Richard Jacobs. This is item number 5, page 140.
Good afternoon, Chairman Weisbrod, Commissioners. This is a non-ULURP post-referral follow-up to an application by Maimonides Medical Center to modify the previously approved plan for a large-scale community facility development. The modification was referred to Brooklyn Community Board 12 on March 31st for a 45-day review period. As you recall, Maimonides Medical Center is a 705-bed not-for-profit acute care and teaching institution that has operated since 1947. Historically, the hospital center has provided both inpatient and a variety of outpatient ambulatory services, both to the Borough Park neighborhood and to residents in adjacent Brooklyn communities. The large-scale plan was originally authorized by the City Planning Commission back in January of 1967. There have been subsequent modifications through August of 2003. The current modification would amend the boundary of the plan to facilitate an otherwise as-of-right new 7-story building just under 138,000 square feet for ambulatory medical care. Under the proposed modifications, the existing 2-story buildings on the project site would be demolished and replaced with the new 7-story building. Existing patient facilities in these demolished buildings, along with other treatment areas on the medical campus, were relocated and consolidated into this new state-of-the-art facility. At their general meeting on April 29, 2014, Community Board 12 gave their unanimous support for the proposed modification without conditions. Attached in your package is a letter of support dated the following day, April 30th, 2014. As this is a non-ULURP application with limited or minor modifications, the application can be voted on today by the City Planning Commission at today's review session, after which a letter would be forwarded to the Department of Buildings. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions? You will all recall this? Okay. Show of hands, assent to send to buildings? Done.
Thanks, Richard. Let's now move to item number 6, page 168, proposed acquisition of property to facilitate the continued use of the daycare center, known as the Shirley Chisholm Clyde Advent Child Care Center. Our presenter is Corin. This is item number 6, page 168.
Good afternoon. This is an application by the Administration for Children's Services and the Department of Citywide Administrative Services for the acquisition of an existing building to facilitate the continued use of a building as a child care center in the Ocean Hill neighborhood of Brooklyn, Community District 16. This site was the subject of a previously approved acquisition in 1993 for a period of 20 years, which is why it has returned to the Commission for renewal. The proposed site is a 2-story building located at 265 Sumter Street between Thomas S. Boylan Street and Saratoga Avenue. within an R6 zoning district. The surrounding area is generally zoned R6 with C13 and C23 overlays on Fulton Street, Broadway, and parts of Rockaway and Saratoga Avenues. The surrounding land use is largely residential, with 2- and 3-story row houses and small apartment buildings. Local retail, such as delis and salons, can be found along Thomas S. Boylan Street and Saratoga Avenue. The site is accessible by public transportation, with the C at Rockaway Avenue just 3 blocks to the south and several bus routes serving the area. The Shirley Chisholm 5 Advent Child Care Center has served as a child care center since 1973. It serves 55 preschoolers in 3 classrooms. The building includes a basement as well as rooftop and grade play area. Preschool children may attend the program full-time from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. The daycare services encompass a variety of activities and programs, which are determined by the child's age, developmental stage, and hours in daycare, including supervised playtime, group interaction, and socialization activities, as well as educational instruction. The center provides meals, which are prepared on site. The center is licensed and subject to the established standards of ACS, as well as federal, state, and city regulations. The program staff consists of approximately 15 professional, paraprofessional, and support staff. I visited the site in recent weeks and found it to be in excellent condition. The requested acquisition of this existing building would facilitate the continued use of this childcare center in Ocean Hill, Brooklyn.
Thanks, Corin. Questions?
What's the answer to one that I would have, whether or not you visited?
Yeah.
It was lovely.
And Ken and I were just reminiscing about how what a different climate we had when this was first approved in 1993 during the height of the so-called daycare scandal, which is, but it is good to see that it is stayed and weathered the test of time. So, certified. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move to item number 7, page 187, proposed site selection and acquisition of property to facilitate a fire apparatus fleet warehouse. Our presenter is Penny. This is item number 7, page 187.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Jackie mentioned, this is an application by the fire department and DCAS for the acquisition of approximately 58,000 square feet in an existing building and a 30,000 square foot parking lot also associated with the building for a property in Sunnyside, Queens. Just for area orientation, the building is here. Sunnyside Gardens, which I think some of you have seen our applications for in the past, the Sunnyside Gardens residential community is right across 43rd Street. I'm noticing my little pointer here is a little weak. In any event, I apologize.
You throw it into the budget?
That is really tight.
No more batteries.
A post-July 1st item. Thank you.
The site would be accessed via a two-way curb cut on 43rd Street, and then there's a driveway down to the back of the property with a number of vehicular and personnel entrances at the back of the building. There is an existing business in the building that will remain in place. They do liquor and store displays, and they have their own loading bays on 43rd Street, so there's no conflict between the two. The previous tenant of the building, from the Googling that I've been able to do, it was a former men's and boys apparel distribution facility, and they seem to have gone out of business. So the site became available. The fire department was seeking a new location for their facility on Page Avenue, which had been flooded by Hurricane Sandy. They found this building. The space was such that in addition to accommodating the Page Avenue facility, they were able to accommodate 3 additional fire department facilities so they could consolidate everything into this site and give up some of their other far-flung facilities in Brooklyn and Queens. I think that pretty much covers it. What I want to also explain is the relationship of the site to the park, because that might be a little difficult to visualize. The brown wall that you see in the back here is the building itself, and up against the building is the portion of the park that is play fields for the older kids. And then as you extend westerly along the site, the parking lot is about 20 feet below grade from the actual playground itself. So, and then across the street from the loading docks is a series of small garages used by residents of Sunnyside Gardens. And then this is looking north towards Northern Boulevard, where it becomes very industrial as you approach Northern Boulevard. As you come out of the facility and go, when you come out and turn to the right, you would head towards Queens Boulevard, and then you get into the more traditional Sunnyside Gardens community. This is showing the driveway. This is the Sunnyside rail yard. Here's the building, so there's a narrow driveway, and then these are the loading bays. But I was out there on a Sunday. I was not out there on a weekday. But when you're in the park, it would be difficult to be aware of what was going on in the building itself, just because, as I mentioned, the parking lot is really far below grade. So I don't think there'd be a lot of conflict between the uses. And that's it.
Thanks, Penny. Questions? Ms. Levin?
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Penny, I don't know this area super well at all, but I have to say it looks odd to me on paper that we would have an equipment with so many trucks moving in and out, pieces of heavy equipment moving in and out immediately across from residential use and next to a playground. Is that going to work?
That was what I thought too, and that's exactly why I went out there and took these pictures. I think what's important to note is that this is not a response facility. This is a building that's going to house decommissioned fire trucks, and they will be moving out of the facility as DCAS auctions them. The other facilities that are going to be operating here are the motor vehicle operation unit. And so as vehicles need to be repaired, they will be brought here, then they will go out. So it's not a continuous 24-hour use. The other thing is that, and this was referred, there was a 204G letter that went to both the borough president and the community board because due to the timing for this facility, when they determined its need, it was not able to be in the district needs statement. There's a 2-year lag between getting it in and it being published. And the deadline for getting this facility in the needs statement occurred the month before they knew they even needed it. It occurred a month before Hurricane Sandy. So they weren't able to, so the community board didn't see this as part of its usual review process. However, as part of the 204G process, they did talk to the community board and the borough president. The community board seemed to indicate that they're going to be suggesting to mitigate your concerns, that the vehicles go north towards Northern Boulevard instead of going south towards Queens Boulevard. Because once you go north, you don't have residences. And directly across from their curb cut is this row of garages.
Right. So
And the garages form, they're shallow, they're little garages, but they do provide kind of a buffer for the residents along here. The other thing I noticed is that the houses on this block don't face the street, they're the mews, so they're actually sideways. So their front door isn't facing 43rd Street, you're getting the side of the building.
right.
So this will obviously be referred to the community board for comment and review.
We'll hear more. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Cantor?
But basically, Penny, it's a non-siren operation.
Correct. It is 24 hours a day, but it's a non-siren
facility.
Why would it be 24-day if it's only maintenance?
Because it's also spare facilities, spare trucks and things like that. So if a fire department facility in the Bronx discovers that they need a new replacement truck, and it's at 2 a.m, they need their truck. But it's not continual operations. There's 20 people 60 people in the building over a 24-hour period of time.
Thank you.
Ms. Battaglia.
My question was, or could have been what Commissioner Levin's was, but I was going to wait for the public hearing, and I see our representative from the fire department is in the room. But in the event of a major emergency, not unlike World Trade Center, I imagine that the spare fire trucks there would all be remanded.
I don't know the answer to that question. They can respond.
Thanks.
Well, the ones that were decommissioned might not be available.
They'll be auctioned.
Spare equipment.
Yeah, I understand that, but a certain number of them are just not available.
No, but spare and reserve.
Ms. Levin.
Just as a follow-up to this, I realize I didn't find in our packet, maybe I missed it, any information about the anticipated number of trips, because there will be the spares coming in and out, and when it comes back to us, we could have some information about frequency of
Yes.
trips in and out. I think that would help us get our heads around this issue.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, certified. Thank you, Penny.
Let's now move to item number 8, page 207. Proposed acquisition of temporary easements to facilitate the rehabilitation of the Roosevelt Avenue Bridge in Queens. Our presenter is Hae Young, and this is item number 8, page 207.
Good afternoon. This is an acquisition request of 10 temporary easements by DOT and DCAS for the rehabilitation of the Roosevelt Avenue Bridge over the Flushing River. The bridge borders Community District 3, 4, and 7. It is located on Roosevelt Avenue, generally bound by 126th Street intersection. Right. Over here. And College Point Boulevard intersection. This is the bridge. To the north and west of the project is Willets Point Special District and Citi Field Baseball Stadium. To the south is Flushing Meadows Corona Park, and to the east, the Flushing neighborhood of Community District 7. Land uses in the surrounding area include recreational uses in Flushing Meadow Corona Park and Citi Field, surface and rail maintenance, retail centers, and auto repair, chop shops, and construction storage area. The Roosevelt Avenue Bridge has been in service for over 80 years, since its completion in 1927, and in need of repairs. The most recent rehabilitation effort took place in 1982 and consisted of a full deck replacement and comprehensive steel repairs. Since the last structural rehab in 1982, DOT has continued the maintenance effort and have been keeping the bridge in a safe operating condition. But the structure and roadway continues to deteriorate and requires more maintenance every year. The need for the temp easements for long-term repair is based on the detailed structural inspection conducted in 2005. The inspection revealed severe deterioration of the deck, in particular the bascule span. The overlay is cracked and shows signs of numerous repairs with asphalt and concrete patches. At the bascule span, almost 50% of the surface is patched. Because of the extensive cracking, the deck exhibits signs of water leakage. The bottom of the deck is severely corroded and shows numerous signs of efflorescence. Cracking of the overlay has been attributed to expansive corrosion of the steel grating. Additionally, analysis of the viaduct indicated that there is a fatigue problem in the welds between the grating and the steel plate. Therefore, replacement of the overlay alone without replacing the whole deck has not been considered a valid approach to extend the service life of the bridge. The applicant requests the following 10 temporary easements to allow construction area of the rehabilitation of the bridge. Easement A, B, and C, shown in 3 colors to the lower left here, are located on Block 2018, Lot 83 and 75, Block 1833, Lot 101, on property owned by MTA. Easement D in green, here, is located on Block 2018, Lot 300, on property owned by MTA, LIRR. Easement E in maroon is located on Block 5066, Lot 1, on private property owned by CE Flushing LLC. Easement F in yellow here is located on Block 4963, Lot 7, on private property owned by ABS Flushing Development LLC. Easement G in orange here is located on Block 4963, Lot 1, on private property owned by CE Flushing LLC. Easement H in blue is located on Block here 1833, Lot 1, on property owned by MTA, LIRR. Lastly, as located on Block 1833, Lot 1, are easement I and J, located, both owned by MTA, LIRR, but is currently leased on a month-by-month basis to the Tully Construction Company. Each easement would be needed for approximately 3 to 3.5 years, beginning March 2015. The easement would facilitate in meeting the objectives, which include replacement of the existing deck of the viaduct and bascule span with concrete-filled galvanized steel grid deck, widening of the sidewalk to accommodate bike lanes, install new fencing, retrofitting for seismic safety, demolition of control houses, cleaning and painting roadway structure, including removing lead paint, improve and install new drainage system, and replace and provide new bridge lighting, traffic barriers, signage, and new pavement striping. The proposed Roosevelt Avenue Bridge rehabilitation project has been determined to not have a significant environmental impact.
Thank you very much, Heikki. Questions? Mr. Cantor.
Is anyone from the department here?
Department of
DOT?
No.
You know, in a sense, Mr. Chair, this reminds me about many, many years ago, where for lack of paint jobs, bridges deteriorated, and we spent hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, I'm not suggesting this is the same, because there are other upgrades that are in here, like seismic, which wouldn't have been contemplated. But when I hear about corrosion of bearings and items such as that, it brings back to me the memories of the paint jobs. And I'm bringing this up only in terms of where the administration should spend its money and where it should go, because this long-term preventative maintenance is a heck of a lot less expensive, both in time and cost and money and inconvenience to neighborhoods, than finding a way to find the money. And when we are putting that thought together with our issue of affordable housing and the need for infrastructure, I think it's a complementary situation.
Well, I totally agree, and I think that the city, the last time this bridge was substantially rehabilitated was in 1982, so it was more than 30 years ago. I don't think we know exactly how much preventive maintenance was put in between now and then. I do think that over the past 30 years, the city has learned its very valuable lesson about preventive maintenance being a lot less expensive than addressing crises. But I suggest that when this comes back and the Department of Transportation does appear with us, you make that point and underscore
Not in
it.
any way meant as a criticism of the current department.
Right. No, and obviously, if there has been an absence of preventive maintenance in this particular instance, it is reflective on a whole swath of administrations. So it's, but presumably, and I believe, at least in my experience in city government, that over the past 30 years, the city has in fact learned that lesson, but we shall see. Other questions for Hae-Kyung?
Aye.
Mr. Knuckles?
Given the compelling rationale here, I dare say I wouldn't anticipate there'd be any resistance to this, but in terms of the easements that are the subject of private property, do you know how these property owners are notified and what that process is?
I believe they were notified. DOT has reached out to them, and they have agreed via letter, I believe. I can confirm, but they didn't have any resistance.
Thank you.
Ms. Delausse?
Hi, I think you mentioned lead paint. Can you just point out where the closest residential building is to the bridge, considering the lead paint? I know that when the Williamsburg Bridge was repainted and they had to remove the lead paint, special precautions were taken because of the proximity to residential buildings.
Well, the surrounding land uses, it's C4s and M1s. I think the closest residential would be here, and in Flushing, it would be further out here. So the bridge is the red circle right here. So it would be along here.
Can you speak to whether or not there are going to be any, I mean, I know there's standard precautions with lead paint, but beyond that, do you know of any that are being taken in this case to remove the lead paint?
I do not know, but I'll figure it out.
Thanks.
They're going to do that as a matter of form.
Any other questions? Thank you, Hae-Kyung.
Thank you.
This is 2 appearances in 3 weeks. That's very good. We'll see you becoming a regular, I think, on the show.
So this application is...
This is certified, pardon me.
And so our next item number 9, page 228, involves the proposed disposition of city-owned property to facilitate easements for storm sewer infrastructure connections along the waterfront in Stapleton, Staten Island. And our presenter is Kirsty. This is item number 9, page 228.
Good afternoon. This application, filed by Small Business Services and the New York City Economic Development Corporation, seeks approval of the disposition of approximately 18,000 square feet of city-owned property for a storm sewer easement. The storm sewer easement would allow the developer to construct and maintain storm sewer infrastructure for Phase 1 of a previously approved redevelopment on the Stapleton waterfront. This is an illustrative site plan of the proposed development, which is being, has already been through the land use approval process to the extent that it was pursuant to zoning. All right. This will the proposed easement area will be used to facilitate discharge of treated stormwater runoff, and that is rainwater, into the upper New York Bay, as contemplated in the EIS and tech memo completed for the prior disposition in 2006. So this is a follow-up to ULURP C060469 PPR, in which the city disposed of several city-owned development sites located on the Stapleton waterfront. This was the former Navy Homeport site, and it was disposed to the NYC EDC. And the history of that is that in 2006, the City Council approved a series of actions to facilitate the redevelopment of the U.S. Navy Homeport site after the federal government closed the Homeport Naval Base and the city took ownership in 1995. In 2006, I'm going to show you the Stapleton waterfront. This is the waterfront district plan, which is in the zoning resolution and summarizes the boundaries and some aspects of the master plan. In 2006, the principal action consisted of a zoning map change to reflect the creation of a special Stapleton waterfront district. And And the rezoning of the land along the Stapleton waterfront from M21 and M31 to C4 2A. There were 4 other associated actions. A zoning text amendment establishing a special district. A city map change that demapped and reconfigured some city streets. A disposition of 6 city-owned development parcels A, B1, and B1 through B5 and C. Those were disposed to the New York City EDC. And disposition of 10,000 square feet of land within the mapped public areas of the special district to EDC for development of uses complementary to waterfront recreation. Next, in 2010, Homeport 1 LLC was selected as developer of 2 of the Phase 1 sites, B2 and B3, which are in the center of the site. Sorry, I do have a pointer. In the center of the site between the Navy Pier and an area to be known as the Cove. And in 2010, today vacant land, as you can see in the aerial, sites B2 and B3 will be developed with 2 new residential buildings, as shown in the illustrative site plan, containing 950 dwelling units and 40,000 square feet of commercial along this new private road, and also accessory parking and related site improvements. And for the land use, the project area is located in Staten Island's Community Board 1 within the special Stapleton Waterfront District and adjacent to the Stapleton neighborhood to the west. The project area's first surrounding land uses is predominantly industrial, 1-story buildings, open storage and parking, and the Staten Island Railroad runs on the westerly edge of the Stapleton Waterfront District. It's bounded by Front Street to the west, the Upper New York Bay to the east, Wave Street to the north, and Water Street to the south, and is zoned C4 2A. The rendering is probably the best to point out the relationship of the easement to the development site and the properties. The proposed development sites affected by the easement, the disposition of the easement consists of newly created tax lots 20 and 30, which correspond with sites B2 and B3, the loop road of private driveway, which wraps around the sites and intersects with Front Street at 2 points, Front Street being the public street. The adjacent city-owned parcel between Loop Road and the water of Upper New York Bay in green, on which will be constructed a waterfront esplanade to be managed by the EDC. So to be clear, this esplanade is open space but not mapped parkland and will remain in the jurisdiction of small business services. Together, the sites have an area of approximately 6.7 acres. And the easement area to be disposed will include approximately 18,000 square feet of portions of Block 487, lots 5 and 100. As you can see, the T-shaped easement area extends from site B2 and B3 across the Loop Road and the Esplanade and terminates in the existing bulkhead. A portion of the easement area contains an existing outfall pipe, which is 42 inches reinforced concrete pipe. The developer proposed to install its private storm drain discharge pipe within that easement and connect it to the existing outfall pipe, which runs under the surface of the esplanade land. And so treated rainwater, that is stormwater, will be discharged into Upper New York Bay. So the disposition of the easement will permit the installation of the connecting storm sewer lines, the use of the existing outfall pipe, and under the esplanade area for the drainage of stormwater and an associated right of access for maintenance, repair, and replacement.
Thank you. Questions? Ms. Reade?
Hi, good afternoon. Where would the stormwater runoff be treated? Is it on site there or?
Yes, the permitted stormwater treatment system, the water, it rains. Water falls on buildings, parking lots, flows into drains. And then there are these devices which filter the water, take out trash and grit, remove oil and sediment, and then discharge it. It carries on to the outfall.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Deluz?
So in a major rain event, is there a need to also have some kind of retention tank? And is one such provided here?
The storm sewer is, the system is designed, Langen Engineering has explained that the system is designed, the pipe has a capacity of 119 cubic feet per second, and the water collected and flowing through these pipes uses 72 cubic feet per second. So there's an excess capacity of 48 cubic feet and no retention is required.
Okay, so I guess projecting for the future climate change, hopefully that would be sufficient.
Yeah, and that's for a 100-year storm?
Okay.
Mr. Marine?
Kirsty, who will maintain and clean out those filtering systems, and how many of them are there on the site proposed? Are they intended just for this development, or are collecting stormwater from certain parts of Stapleton? How does that work?
The first question, how will they be maintained? I believe, I will ask the developer to confirm and answer that for you before the public hearing. It's my understanding, I'm pretty sure they're maintaining it. 2, how many of the filters are there? I will ask Langen Engineering to answer that. But the design has been reviewed and permitted by the DEC and I believe the DEP.
Okay.
Okay, and we will follow up on that.
Thank you. And is it just intended for this development, this system that's going in place right now?
Langen Engineering tells me that the system will take care of this site. My understanding is, so it takes care of the land between the church and the cove and this street and that street.
Thank you.
Mr. Cantor?
Yes. Christie, question, did I understand you to say that the promenade, if you will, is going to be maintained by EDC?
Just checking my notes. It will remain within the jurisdiction of the Department of Small Business Services.
Small business, right? Before that, I thought you had said something here. Okay. When you say in the jurisdiction, who's going to
You are correct, to be managed by EDC.
manage? Is that maintained or managed?
I can get more details for you. I believe there's a whole agreement associated with the development plan.
Okay. You mentioned specifically that it was not parkland. Why was it not thought to be, why was it not considered to be parkland?
Glenn, thank you.
I know that the Parks Department has been very active in the review of the design. I think it had to do more about management and maintenance, but they have actually been been an active partner in discerning how it actually be designed that meets park.
So where I'm going with this, Len, is I see
Upland.
I see that the developer is asking for a great deal. He's building a strip of trees, and he says to the city, you maintain it. And I'm wondering where the quid and the pro and the quo is.
It's more, I'd say it's more than a strip of trees, and what we can do is we can ask EDC and the applicant to present more of just a description of the site plan for the public esplanade when they come back for public review. But it's been through a number of reviews with our former chair in the Parks Department, specifically to identify how this section here and the cove is a future public space, and the entire esplanade will connect all the way up throughout the entire site. This is just the first portion of it, but the original master plan that we actually demonstrated looked at the entire 1 mile stretch of the esplanade.
That'll be helpful. Thank you, Len.
Any other
I'm
questions
going
for
to add
Christie?
that there were 30 million city dollars invested in the improvements, both the Esplanade and Front Street, the public street. So it's kind of a public-private partnership, and we'll give you more details.
Ms.
As long as
Besser.
it's a partnership.
Ms. Besser.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. As the process moves forward, I was wondering also if we could view the current plans of the, specifically the location of the easement on the Esplanade, just to be able to view that. In addition, I wanted to know if the developer is also planning to pursue affordable housing at sites B1, B4, and B5 in addition to B2 and B3.
At this time, I'm going to sort of frame your question and then answer it. You mentioned that you'd like to see the area where the sewer easement crosses the Esplanade in greater detail?
Yes, please.
Yes, okay. Secondly, the question about affordable housing. Most of the transactions, including the rezoning related to this phase of the development, occurred between 2006 and 2011. What is happening on the redevelopment site is that the developer last week informed us that he's applying for 421A funding, which requires 20% affordable units in Phase 1 of the development. Phase 1 of the development is 571 dwelling units on this side, and Phase 2 is in a few years from now. And so out of 521, that's 115 affordable units, 18 of which are 40% AMI, and 97 of which are 50% AMI. That's the extent of the current commitment.
And just this is maybe another one of those projects that are in the pipeline now that we may well come back and revisit upon the conclusion of our mandatory inclusionary zoning study and use that as the basis for not only affordable housing during the 421A period, but permanence as well. Any other questions for Christie? Thank you very much. This is certified.
Thanks. Let's now move to item number 10, page 238. It's our sole pre-hearing item on for Wednesday. Proposed disposition of one city-owned property located at 1337 Jerome Avenue. Now, our presenter is Jutan. This is item number 10, page 238, a Bronx pre-hearing application.
Good afternoon, everyone. So this is a pre-hearing item which DCAS is seeking a general disposition approval for 1337 Jerome Avenue. The site is located on a 6,516 square foot lot located on the west side of Jerome Avenue between Clark Place and 170th Street in the High Bridge neighborhood of Bronx Community Ward 4. The surrounding area comprised of 1 to 2 story commercial and light industrial uses. The number 4 elevated train runs along Jerome Avenue and is adjacent to the site. There is a stop at 170th Street here. The property is a split lot located in M1-2 zoning district, and the remaining portion in an R8 with a C24 commercial overlay. The property includes a 1-story, 6,250 square foot commercial building constructed in 1920. The property was privately owned until 1981, when the city acquired it through the in-rem foreclosure process. It was assigned to the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene in 1982, which used it as a pest control facility. The site has been vacant since August 2013. In December 2013, Department of Health and Mental Hygiene surrendered the property to DCAS. While there's no facilitated project associated with the property disposition, the approval will allow the city to dispose of the property in the future. On March 25th, the Community Board 4 voted in favor of the disposition, 28 in favor, 1 opposed. On May 2nd, the Borough President sent in a favorable recommendation.
Questions before the public hearing on Wednesday? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, let's now look at our future votes. This Wednesday, staff prepared favorable resolutions for the following. We have the City Island Bridge proposal, which is a city map amendment and acquisition action to facilitate replacement to the City Island Bridge in the Bronx. We also have the 4112 Farragut Road office space, which will facilitate Offices for Community Board 17 in Brooklyn. You have received a letter from DCAS, a follow-up letter from DCAS with respect to why this particular site was chosen. You also have a letter of recommendation from the Community Board, and staff is here in case you have any additional concerns. Okay, thank you. We have the Empire Boulevard rezoning, which involves rezoning along Empire Boulevard to facilitate a mixed-use development in Brooklyn. We have the Henry Apartments involving an urban development action area designation and special permit to facilitate supportive and low-income housing in Ocean Hill, Brownsville. You also just received a letter from HPD following up on some concerns with respect to screening for some of the clients in the facility. We also have staff here in case you have any additional questions.
Mr. Knuckles.
Well, I just say, I thought further explanation was warranted. Personally, I learned more from a colleague about this process than I did from HRA and HPD. So I thought a letter of this kind was appropriate, and I think it goes a substantial way in addressing some of the concerns that I had. Thank you.
Mr. Marin.
Jackie, I also had some concerns with this project, and I really am happy to see this letter and the explanation of how this project and this type of development is built. I would suggest that in the future, when HPD is developing future programs, or EDC or HDC or any other agency, sister agency, that we not have to ask for a letter of clarification of how the project is run. Rather, that when the project or the program type is developed and introduced, that we get a presentation as a commission so we all understand how these projects are run, because having marketed projects and having been in affordable and supportive housing development, I have never heard of the 60-40 split. Actually, I found out when I was marketing a project just a couple of months ago. So I think it would behoove all the agencies to garner more support from this board, from this commission, if we knew how the programs are developed when they are initiated.
Thank you, Commissioner. As you note, the chairman has asked staff to work with HPD to get a presentation on the supportive housing program. So that's in the works.
Which we will do in the near future, and I think all of us learned a lot about these kinds of projects over the last few weeks, but I also think through that process, first it at least gives me a tremendous amount of security and reassurance that, because I had the same questions many of us had about this, but I also suspect that HPD has learned from this experience as well. So, Ms. Del Toro.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm very pleased with the letter, but I also concur with Commissioner Moreno about this, and I am delighted that we're going to have a presentation because we really learned a lot, and it was unfortunate that we had to ask a lot of basic questions that we should have been presented to us at the very beginning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We also have the...
Whoops, Ms. Battaglia.
I want to chime in because I want to just chime into the Vice Chair's comments that we all learned a lot from this process. I was happy to get this letter from HPD. My stomach fell to the floor when I read this because I felt it was directed at me for raising a question. I've prided myself on inclusiveness all my life, and just even raising those questions really disturbed me. But I am really glad to see this letter, and it really is all about screening to make sure that the right people that want to get ahead and want to stabilize get into stable housing. So it taught me a little bit of a lesson.
Thank you, Commissioner. So the next item is the Red Hook Park ball field, which involves a concession to facilitate improvements to the park and used by Xavier High School. We have the West 106th Street rezoning, which involves zoning map amendment from R72 to R8A and R8B to facilitate a mixed-use development. We have the West 117th Street rezoning, which involves a zoning map amendment from R7A to R8A to facilitate a mixed-use development. We have the Auburn Avenue demapping, which facilitate residential use and preservation of the Blue Belt area in Staten Island. We have 2 office spaces, one located at 135 Canal Street and the other at 1141 Highland Boulevard in Staten Island, which will facilitate DCAS and taxi limousine commission offices. We have the 89 Glover Street proposal, which is a certification for future subdivision in the special South Richmond Development District to facilitate residential development. At 89 Glover Street, we have a series of South Richmond, special South Richmond Development District subdivisions, including 119 Hanover, 405 and 421 Bedell Avenue. We have a SNAT subdivision proposal at 155 Benedict Road in Staten Island. We have special South Richmond Development subdivisions at 11 and 13 Redgrave Avenue, as well as at Jeanette Avenue and Lorraine Avenue in Staten Island. And then moving on to June 11th, we have proposed special permits to facilitate a mixed-use, predominantly residential building in the Soho Cast Iron District at 42 Crosby Street. As you recall, that was special permits for use, bulk, and parking. We had a public hearing a couple of weeks ago, so unless otherwise as noted, we'll be preparing favorable resolutions for your consideration. And then we have the proposed zoning map and text amendments to facilitate a mixed-use, predominantly residential building at 1155 49th Avenue in Long Island City, Queens. And you also received a letter from the applicant responding to some of the concerns that were raised at that time of the public hearing. So we have staff here. Otherwise, I would say that would be it for today, Mr. Chairman.
Well, we will reconvene on Wednesday. Bring your sleeping bags. This looks like a very, very long hearing. And thank you very much, Madam Secretary.